Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a Kuriboh deck profile. So I'm really excited to show you guys because this deck is one of the most nostalgic decks in the entire game, and it's really amazing that we can actually play a deck based around Kuriboh, the very first hand trap that we ever got in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's amazing how far we've come in Yu-Gi-Oh! From going from Kuriboh all the way up to Ash Blossom. Is just absolutely insane. This deck is really fun to be able to play around with because you can actually use cards like Multiply and 5-Star Twilight to swarm the field with all sorts of different Kuriboh monsters to summon out some really insane boss monsters. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting your requested deck profile every single month to our Patreon along with test hands. So, without further ado, let's get straight on into this. And make sure that if you're playing this deck, you've got tokens. It is very, very important for cards like Multiply. So, for the cards we're playing in the deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kuriboh, which is one of the weakest cards in the entire game, according to Seto Kaiba. But it's actually a really good card because it has the ability that if you're going to be going into battle during damage calculation, if your opponent's monster attacks, quick effect, you can discard this card and you take no battle damage from that battle, which is pretty good to have a little bit of protection in this deck. We then play a single copy of Kuriboh. This card is a really good card because it combos very well with 5-Star Twilight, but it also has the ability this card is always treated as a Kuriboh. All of your Kuriboh brothers count as Kuriboh, which is really, really good to be able to just count them all as Kuriboh cards. This card has the ability that when this card or another Kuriboh monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon one monster with 300 attack and 200 defense from your deck, except Kuriboh. And you can only use the following effects this card once per turn. That you can tribute this card and one each of your Kuriboh brothers to be able to special summon out a Babylon from your hand, deck, or graveyard, which is a really good effect to be able to summon out that really awesome boss monster. We then play a single copy of Kuriboh. Kuriboh is a good card as well because it has the ability that when this card or another Kuriboh monster you control is destroyed by battle, then you can add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that lists Kuriboh in its text. And you can only use each of this card's effects once per turn, and once per turn when an opponent's monster declares an attack, while you control another Kuriboh monster, you can change the attack of all monsters you control to 0 until the end of the turn, and if you do, negate the attack. We then play a single copy of Kuriboh. This card is really good. This card is actually a really neat card because it has the ability that you can quick effect, discard this card, and then target a Kuriboh monster you control, and it gains 1500 attack. That actually is pretty helpful to boost them up to 1800, but it also has the ability to contribute this card you control and one each of the Kuriboh brothers from your hand, and if you do, you get to add one Kuri Bandit from your deck to your hand, graveyard to your hand. Then you have this card resolves, you get to normal summon a Fiend monster, but that hand trap ability to just boost them up by 1500 is actually really good in this deck. We then play a single copy of Kuriboh. Kuriboh is kind of neat for the deck as well, and it has the ability that when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can discard this card to add a Kuriboh monster from your deck to your hand, except a Kuriboh. And then once per turn, quick effect, you can discard one trap, and then target a face-up monster opponent controls, and it loses 1500 attack until the end of this turn, which comboed with your other Kuriboh brother, this card comes in very, very handy. We then play a single copy of Winged Kuriboh. I really love playing a single copy of this card in the deck. It's just super nostalgic to be able to play Winged Kuriboh and Kuriboh in the same deck. But this card has the ability, if this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, for the rest of the turn, you take no battle damage, which is really good for this deck, especially because you can summon this card off the flute of summoning Kuriboh. We then play a single copy of Kuriboh. This card is just a good one of in here to help you swarm the field, and it just brings back a bunch of Kuriboh monsters from the graveyard. We play 3 copies of Astral Kuriboh as well. This card is great to be able to go into all sorts of different Xyz plays because it has the ability you can reveal a number monster in your X deck, and then you can special summon this card from your hand. If you do, this card's level becomes the level of the revealed monster's rank, which is always going to be rank 5 to be able to use with your copies of your 5-Star Twilight, which is really, really good for this deck to help you go in for all those really good plays. We then play a single copy of Kuri Babylon. Kuri Babylon is a really good boss monster. It has the ability that it gains 300 attack and defense for each Kuriboh monster that you control and in your graveyard, and you can only use one of the following effects of this card per turn. If you have more monsters in your graveyard than your opponent, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then during your main phase or battle phase, you can return this card to your hand. And if you do, special summon one each of your Kuriboh brothers between all of these cards, which is really, really good to just swarm the field with 5 of your Kuriboh brothers from your hand or graveyard in attack position. This card is really good, but I really only feel like I need a single copy of this card in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Skilled Brown Magician. This card is a good card in the deck, and it was just recently released in Battle of Chaos. Skilled Brown Magician is just so good in the deck because it has the ability that each time a spell is activated, you place a spell counter on this card, and when that spell resolves, max 3. You get to put up to 3 spell counters on this card, and you remove a spell counter from this card to activate one of these effects. Then this card gains 1500 attack points, and you increase this level by 1 to get you a level 5 on your side of the field to be able to use with 5-star Twilight. Or you get to add a Kuriboh monster or a multiply from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This card literally serves as your best card in the entire deck, which is why I'm playing it as a 3 of. We then play 3 copies of Link Slayer. This card is kind of good in the deck because it helps you get a monster on your side of the field that's level 5, and it's just really good to be able to use with 5-star Twilight. We play 3 copies of Red-Haired Hasty Horse. This card is also really good to be able to use with 5-star Twilight because you want a lot of different level 5s in this deck so you can summon them to your side of the field for the 5-star Twilight. So these are basically here for that, or to be able to use as Link materials to go into a Link monster. We then play 2 copies of Jester Comfy. This card is again kind of here just to be able to special summon to your side of the field to be able to go in for additional plays for Link monsters, which is a really good 2 of in this deck. Basically, you can just special summon it to your side of the field, which is a pretty good effect. Let me play a single copy of Dark Magician, the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense, and a single copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon to be able to go into a copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is super good in this deck, especially playing Kuriboh. Is just super awesome to be able to play that Yugioh fusion monster. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Red Eyes Fusion, so we can go into a copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. We then play a single copy of 1-for-1 because all of our Kuriboh monsters are pretty much level 1, so this card is a really good card to be able to special summon out any of those monsters to your side of the field by sending a monster in your hand to the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster just to be able to get rid of back row, which is really nice, and when we do swarm the field, we're going to want our opponent to not have any monsters on the field, so we play 3 copies of Regeki. This card is so crazy in this deck. With being able to swarm the field and be able to summon as many boss monsters as this deck can, when I saw Regeki go to 3, this was actually one of the first decks that I thought of that I wanted to put this card in because it's so good to be able to just drop a copy of Regeki, swarm the field, make whatever cards you want, and go in for game, which is just super, super cool for this deck. It's so good that we can actually play 3 copies of Regeki now, and it's just such a good card in this deck. So for the other cards we're playing, for the Kuriboh cards, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Flute of Summoning Kuriboh. This card is really good because it lets you special summon a Kuriboh or a Wing Kuriboh from the deck, and it's not a once per turn, which is a really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Multiply. Multiply is the reason that you're actually going to need these tokens because this card is so good. It has the ability that you contribute a face-up Kuriboh to be able to special summon as many Kuriboh tokens to your side of the field as possible. That is 300 attack and 200 defense as possible in defense position, but you can't tribute them for tribute summon, which is not a big deal because basically what you're doing is summoning those cards to your side of the field to be able to use them to link summon into all sorts of powerful link monsters. We then play 3 copies of 5-star Twilight. 5-star Twilight is such a good card in this deck as well, because if the only monster that you control is one level 5 monster, you can tribute that monster to special summon out all 5 of the Kuriboh brothers to your side of the field from your hand, deck, or graveyard. But they can't be tributed for a tribute summon, which is again not that big of a deal because basically what you're using them for is to link climb or go into your Kuri Babylon, which is a really, really good effect. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a lot of Link monsters. But first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Link Kuriboh. You got to play a single copy of Link Kuriboh. It just goes with the theme. And it's really good to protect you from battles. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker because it can get us a lot of pops on the field. If you're going for a little bit more of a budget build, you can trade this card out for a copy of Boral Sword Dragon. We then play a single copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, which is a card you're going to be going for all the time in this deck. And it's just such a powerful card in this particular deck. and I love this card in this build. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa just to give us all those monster negates that we need, which is a really nice thing for this deck, just in case you need to go in for a game. You summon Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. If you want to get a little bit more negation because you're going first, you can summon out the Appaloosa. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to be able to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and Cerberus to pop monsters, IP Masquerade so we can go into our copy of our Unicorn during their opponent's turn to be able to spin stuff, which is super helpful for this deck. But also you can use this card to go into Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax to make it pretty much invincible, which is absolutely crazy. We then play a single copy of the Dark Charmer Gloomy. This card is pretty good in this deck because you do play a lot of dark monsters, so this dark card actually does come up quite a lot. And it's really helpful as well, because it just takes 2 dark monsters to summon this card. We then play a single copy of Anaconda, so we can go into our copy of Dragoons, a single copy of Link Spider as well, so we can use this card with our copies of our tokens to be able to go in for additional plays. A single copy of Alamirage, just in case we normal summon a monster to our side of the field that we want to link away. A copy of Relinquished Anima, because it can eat cards on our opponent's side of the field, which is really, really nice that it points to. One copy of Volcasaurus, because you're going to reveal this card to be able to summon out your Astral Kuriboh as a level 5, and a single copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, the ultimate fusion monster between Yugi and Joey, which is just super cool in this Kuriboh deck to be able to play Red Eyes, Dark Magician, and Kuriboh, which is just super, super nostalgic. So anyways, guys, that's it for the deck. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played Kuriboh, you definitely should, because the deck is a really amazing swarm deck that basically just goes in for all the different plays. And make sure that you guys have the tokens. You got to bring around 5 Kuriboh tokens when you play this deck. That is very, very important to have the 5 Kuriboh tokens, because it's going to get you into some really, really fun plays, because you're going to need these to keep up with throwing them on your side of the field for multiply, to be able to then use them to link away for all those really, really good link monsters. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. Make sure that you guys have those tokens, because that's very important. You can change out some of the cards in the extra deck. Like if you want to change out Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, you can play Rainbow Neos, which is a little bit more of a budget option for you guys. You can change out the copy of Access Code Talker as well if you want to, for a copy of Boral Sword Dragon, which will help you go in for more OTKs in this deck. But that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.